Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another accessibility slash assistive technology related update video. I know we just did a channel update and talked about a lot of things less than a week ago, but of course, just after that happened, on Monday this week, we got kind of a shocker announcement again. And that, of course, if you haven't heard already, is that as of right now, at the end of August 2024, the AppleVis website will be no more. It is the end of an era. It is going to be shut down unless someone can swoop in and try to save it somehow. The website is still alive, but it is in read-only mode. It is locked down, so you can no longer post to the forums or add new apps in the app directories or anything like that. But if you have, tutorials or podcasts that you want to save, you want to grab those for the future for your future reference, you got about a month to do it. Because as of right now, like I said, unless someone swoops in and saves it, unfortunately, AppleVis is going away. So that is what I want to talk about in this video. That is really what this video is all about. I'm going to try to keep it short. Try not to go on kind of a rant because there's a couple of thoughts that I have here. But first and foremost, I just really want to thank everybody who's been involved in the AppleVis community over the past 14 years. The technical guy behind everything, David Goodwin, huge shout out to him because the website wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And then you have all of the writers, the contributors, the forum moderators, everything like that. Everyone involved in whether it's creating content, moderating content, the technical wizardry behind everything, keeping everything alive and running and working. Huge shout out and thank you for everything that they have done over the past several years for the website. Because keep in mind, AppleVis is an entirely volunteer community as of right now. Like, they may have gotten a little bit of money here and there, but it's pretty much volunteer based, and that's kind of what ended up contributing to the end of this era. If you go to applevis.com right now, the first article you're going to see it's titled like "The End of an Era." And that is by the guy behind AppleVis, David Goodwin. And I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad he wrote the article. It was super well written. It was a little bit of a longer read, but I'm glad it was long because he laid everything out, explained the reasoning, explained why. This wasn't just a thing that they thought about doing overnight. They talked about it. They didn't want to do it, but when it came down to it, that was the decision that they had to make. And based on everything that was written in that article, it sucks that the website is going away, but after reading it, I can totally respect and empathize and understand why they would make that decision. And I was very surprised when they announced that AppleVis was going to be shutting down. Like I said, I saw a post on Twitter linking to that article. I'm like, oh, what is this? End of an era. Wait, what? And I looked at it and went, oh dear. That was surprising, but I wasn't entirely surprised. I mean, I was still very, very surprised. But about a week or two ago, there was another update on the AppleVis website. They were giving some updates on David, and I guess he's going through some medical stuff right now. I'm not going to go into detail because like I said, if you want to find that article, you can read it for yourself. But that is not the major reason that the website is going to be shut down. It was probably a little part of it, but there was a lot more that went into it. And so, in the article, he talked about like I said, this is a volunteer-based organization right now. But the problem is we have the writers, we have the moderators, we have all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's kind of a one dude operation, like all the technical stuff that keeps the website running and working and alive, ran through him. Now, the advantage to that is somebody reports that something is broken or needs updating or whatever, one person can just, okay, go in and try to fix it when they can and get it done. And then you're also kind of, it's kind of like me. If I was doing a project, like I like getting help for things sometimes, but at the same time, like I know how I want something to be done, and there's like a base level quality standard that I want to maintain. And so, unless I really vetted people who I trusted to keep and maintain that that quality level standard, I don't want to have to be going back in and be like, oh crap, well this isn't so good. Now I got to go back and edit or fix this problem or what have you. So that's the advantage. But of course, the disadvantage, if it's only one guy, well, what if somebody gets sick? What if, they get burnt out? What if they've been, life happens. They get a family, they get another job, they get whatever. They're just tired of it. They need a change. And that's kind of where we are. He's been doing it for 14 years, pretty much the technical stuff on his own. So I can totally respect getting burnt out on that. Especially, again, being a volunteer job, this is kind of a thankless job in a lot of ways, because that's the other thing that he mentioned in the article, which I appreciate that he brought up, because I think it's absolutely a contributing factor, and I think that it should be called out. One of the major reasons they considered closing the website is it just got too much to moderate the forums and some of the community behavior. I would say for the past few years now, at the very least, I've commented on it. Coworkers and I have talked about it. Friends of mine and I have talked about it. There's kind of become, like, don't get me wrong, there's still some great threads. There's a lot of great members of the community. And overall, like, I still get quite a bit of information from the website. But, over the last couple of years, I don't visit AppleVis quite as much as I used to, especially the forums, simply because I'm tired of hearing all this negativity. I'm tired of hearing all this immature temper tantrum behavior. Even as, like, I haven't been doing it 14 years, but I've been doing my YouTube channel for over 12. And over the years, I've gotten a few emails, I've gotten a few comments in videos, I've gotten social media messages or posts. And I've gotten weird things myself. Anything from, people not liking a certain way I did a video, or certain ways that I do things, or, they're like, oh, well, this is a new game. Can you tell me where I can pirate this? Where can you give me a free code? Can you give me a free coupon? Where can I pirate this game? Where can I get it for free? And why, oh, well, this is stupid. Why should I have to pay for this app? Why isn't it available for free? And just, anything, and even weirder stuff that I can't even really remember. But, like, I've encountered some of that to a degree myself. But, even reading a lot of the message board, the forum posts over the years on AppleVis, if I were running that, if I had to moderate that, I would be pretty sick of it too. Because even as a reader, reader of the website and the forums, there's been, I would say, many times over the past several years where, I try to maintain, whether it's my personal life, my work, through my day job, through my other, my game accessibility career here that I've developed over the past several years, I just try to be a good person. I try to maintain a certain level of professionalism, um, integrity, civility. Um, but it's been hard. There's been several times where I've just something really pushed my buttons, and I've really wanted to go off on people because it's like, dude, how can you say that? Like, how can you have that attitude, or how can you behave this way? Um, I've really wanted to rip into a few people over the years, but I didn't. Um, Thankfully, they haven't pushed me that far yet. I haven't snapped yet. Um, Thankfully, but yeah, even just reading this stuff, it's like I was talking to my friend, and I was even talking to my mom about this earlier today. And many years ago, several years ago, back in my day, it's getting to be that way. But you could have a conversation, you could have an argument, you could, I could give my opinion, you could give your opinion, we could chat about it a little more, and maybe at the end of that conversation we agreed to disagree, and that was fine. You have your opinion, I have mine. Yeah, okay, at least I see where you're coming from, but I didn't change my mind. But I'm not calling in death threats on you. I'm not gonna smear you all over social media and try to get you canceled or doxxed, or um, make a decision. Like, oh, I think this app behavior should work this way, and then they say, well, no, I think it should actually work this way. It would be easier for me. Um, but it's not just that anymore. It's, you don't agree with me, therefore you are my mortal enemy, and I will make this a personal attack, instead of just saying, hey, I don't like it this way. I would like it the other way, and that's the way I feel. Um, Whether it's technology, games, accessibility, politics, I can't tell you how sick to death I am of politics this year. It being an election year, that's all I'm going to say about that. But I mean, like I said, back in the day, you could still be friends. You could talk to your family members. You could still be friends, or talk to your coworkers, and sometimes disagree on stuff. But now everything is this. It turns into this personal attack. Like I said, you are my mortal enemy, and I will come to your house, and I will cut you, and I will smear every bad thing you've ever done over social media, and even make up stuff, whatever. Um, but yeah, this small vocal part of the community was a contributing factor to deciding to. It's like, what? It's a thankless job. It's volunteer. It's a lot of work. It takes up a lot of time, a lot of effort. And if people are going to behave this way, why am I doing this? I get it. I get it. I respect that. Call them out too. So that's where we are right now. If you want to actually hear other people talk about this, there's actually a good podcast. It's the Double Tap podcast. If you look up, I believe it's the July 29th episode. There's a few people in the accessibility and Apple community that have been talking about this on that episode, and I'm guessing this probably won't be the last we'll hear. I'm sure, I'm sure the Jonathan Mosen podcast will bring it up next week. I'm sure other places will cover it as well, but they did a really good job talking about not just like what the AppleVis website and community meant to people, but what could happen going forward. I mean, like I said, over the past 14 years, I got my first iPad and then an iPhone. I don't remember if it was 2011 or 2012. I got my iPad 2 is when I came in. And then that fall, I got the iPhone 4S. It was the year that Siri started. And it actually became available on Verizon. Yay. It wasn't locked to AT&T anymore. But ever since then, I've looked up apps and looked up games, and I've asked some questions in the forums. I've tried to answer some questions in the forums, and I've posted an app or two in the app directory over the years. So, I found it, and when they have the updates like, oh, what's new in iOS 17.1 or what's new in iOS 18, I find those to be really helpful because it's like, oh, is there a major bug I got to worry about or whatever? Um, all of those different reasons and more, I found this to be a very helpful resource. When I heard that podcast episode last year, when they, I forget the guy's name, but the guy who did that really well done podcast, coworker of mine shared it to me. Like, oh, check out this podcast. It's actually really good. Where he did the demo of Be My Eyes, the Be My AI thing. I'm like, oh, dude, I need into this as soon as I can. Um, that was a really memorable podcast I remember listening to. So yeah, it's been just, I know a lot of people, if that's where they've learned about Apple accessibility, be it Mac, iOS, or iPad, um, all the tutorials and podcasts and things. I mean, when I went from Windows Mobile, a lot of those had slide out QWERTY keyboards, and I'm like, how in the hell are you going to make a touchscreen only device blind accessible? And not only blind accessible, but intuitive. By God, they did it though. And this has been a good resource. So yeah, what's going to happen going forward? I know there's already been talks about trying to preserve the website, at the very least, keep it alive in its current form. If nothing else, keep it as an archive so that people don't lose access to the wealth of information that we have so far. Again, the podcasts, the forums, the app directories where people have, you can look up, oh, I need an accessible note-taking app, or I need an accessible weather app, or I want to see what some accessible games are. Any number of those things. And so it would be a shame to lose all that stuff. But even just keeping the website alive in its read-only locked up form right now, there's still going to be future minor maintenance and costs to that, the domain, the website registration, and all of that kind of stuff. So at the bare minimum, there's still a little bit of work that has to be done to keep it alive in archive form. Now, if you want to keep this thing going and keep the forums going and let people add new app things to the app directory and keep the site going as it is now. I mean, like I said, people were talking about expanding this into like having Windows versions of the site or Android versions of this site. Well, that's not going to happen right now. But even if it's just Apple, how can we keep that going? For one, I think it's going to need to, ideally, it's going to have to be a well-dedicated group of people because, you don't want to rely on, let's say, just one technical person. Even if you have two or three, it's like, okay, we can all sort of learn it and then try to keep it going. Because again, what happens 5 years from now if something happens to the guy running it in the future, the person running it in the future, they decide to quit or they get sick or whatever. Having some sort of a group, but then again, do you make it? Can it exist in its current form? Do you change do you just say, well, this is what AppleVis was. Do we try to start fresh and do something different? Do we keep it going and do we still use a volunteer model? Do we try to look at some sort of funding, either through user subscriptions, which I can only the number of people who get just filled with rage when they find they have to pay $2 for an iPhone app or a game. Something tells me in the blindness community, I don't know that a subscription, even if it were like a $2 thing a month, I don't even know that would work well because boy howdy, People in this community are not willing to pay for stuff. And I'm not saying everybody, some people are, but there's a good vocal amount of people that will not. So would that work? Could it be, could like a organization, blindness organizations swoop in, whether, ACB, NFB, um, again, a private group of people that decide to pool their resources together and do it themselves. Um, the nice thing about this was Apple themselves would check into this community and get some feedback from the forum posts and different things like that. There were people that did check out AppleVis, and so would Apple be willing to? I mean, they've got oodles of money. Would they be willing to somehow absorb or take over AppleVis themselves? It's possible, but I definitely wouldn't hold my breath. I would not hold my breath on that. Um, could another assistive technology company, you got Vispero, they seem pretty eager to buy everything up these days. Um, they got Humanware, there's, hymns or whatever, maybe any number of different things. Um, I wouldn't see that it would be likely. Could it happen? Sure, but would it be likely to happen? I don't know. Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, at minimum, I would love to see the website stay as is, and so we don't lose access to the current app directories and information that we have here. But going forward, if they want to keep it alive and active, there's a lot. Again, all those things that I talked about earlier. There's a lot that goes into doing a website. I've built even just piddly simple websites in the past, and keeping those up and maintained and fixed and running. It takes work, it takes time, effort. And so that's why I get so frustrated, and I've talked about this so many times on the channel, whether it's people complaining about an app accessibility or game accessibility, or kind of just feeling entitled for everything for free. Eventually something has to give, and if you have all this negative culture, you try to do the best you can. You put all this time, effort, and work into it over years, and you just go here and you just see all this toxic behavior, and you're just like, you know what? I don't need this in my life anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. So good job. And that's the thing, is going forward. I mean, I would not want to be a moderator, but I think going forward, if they were going to keep a community like this open, I really think that there needs to be some sort of, if anything, like a 3 strikes you're out rule. You can get you get 1 or 2 warnings, but dude, if you keep, you keep being, dragging these forums off topic and super negative, and again, you're making, instead of talking about the topic at hand, you start bad mouthing the person about it. Guess what? Your ass is out of here. We don't need you and your behavior. We try to be inclusive. We try to be helpful and accept people in to let them be. But if they're going to be that way, boot them. 3 strikes, you're out. So that is what's happening with AppleVis right now. It will be very interesting to see over the next few weeks if someone or some people, some group, even some company were to somehow swoop in and save the website in some form, either an archive form or to bring it back to being live again. Will it happen? I don't know. But if it does go away, that will suck because, like I said, I don't visit it as much as I used to, but I still find it a very valuable resource. I refer customers to it during our day job, clients to it during my day job. Um, if I know other blind or visually impaired people or trainers or people who have blind or visually impaired family members, I always refer them to the AppleVis website because it is a great resource. And so, yeah, if it does go away, it's going to be a big loss. But like I said, I get it. So that is a wrap up on the whole AppleVis spiel. Really quickly before I go, I just want to give one quick mention about the Toby Doom 7.5 update. It is not officially out yet. They're working on a couple last minute minor bug fixes and updates. I'm hoping it'll be out maybe by the end of this week. Not much later than that, hopefully. And one thing, if you look at my Toby 7.5 video that I released on Monday, there was a really nice, really detailed comment from Perdoa, who has been working on a lot of these features, like the pathfinding feature. And one thing I did not realize is, remember how those place markers can be, you can add those 1 through 10 place markers. I thought you just had 10 place markers, period. No. Apparently, what you can actually do is you can have multiple of each, and he gave a couple examples. So let's say that you use the place marker 1 for just different level locations. Maybe you find a room that's got 3 doors in it, and you want to be able to come back here and find your way back so you can go through the other doors. Maybe you find another area. It's a hallway that splits off into 2 different paths, and so you might use bookmark, or I keep calling them bookmarks, but place marker 1 for those types of things. Maybe early on in the level you've got good health, so you don't need all these health or armor or ammo pickups, but you could set like, oh, I'm going to use place marker 2 for health. I'm going to use place marker 3 for ammo. I'm going to use place marker 4 for armor. So like, oh, I get to the end of the level. Okay, we are done. I found the end of the level, but my health is kind of low. I don't know that I want to go into the next level at that low of resources. So I could go like, oh, let me go back to my different place markers and like, where was, oh, I know there was an armor thing that I didn't need earlier. Oh, there was a big old med pack somewhere. Where could I find that? So that's a really great use for those types of things. But yeah, you can add multiple of each. I did not, all this time, I did not know or realize that. So just wanted to pass that along and end the video on a little bit of good news instead of being, because this video has been largely a downer, but end to something a little bit positive. Again, really looking forward to having the Toby Doom 7.0 or 7.5 mod out there for you guys. Try it out because it's really cool. You get Heretic now, you get your pathfinding, a lot of other tweaks and fixes. Even if you tried it and had trouble with it before, it's improved so much. So give it a shot. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. I will put the link in the description of that Toby Doom 7.5 video when it comes out. And I will also tweet about it there. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.